Good afternoon and good night, wherever you may be in this part of the world today. I'm your host, Robert Simmons, and welcome to the Real Talk with Robert Simmons Show, special edition for those of you who are tuning in, which the numbers are looking extremely awesome tonight. We have as our guest tonight, Dr. Umar, and he's coming to Jacksonville on December 28th, and we're going to get right into it. We're not going to be able to take a lot of phone calls. I see Atlanta's in the building, DC's in the building, things like that. That's really, really great. So I know who Dr. Umar is. I think I first seen Dr. Umar Hidden. My first experience is that I started following him on the videos that I've seen on YouTube. And for some of you who have been under a rock and don't know who Dr. Umar is, I'm going to give you the opportunity for him to explain to who he is. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Johnson, how are you?
All is well. Thanks for having me on the show. Peace and love to the brothers and sisters down there in Jacksonville and throughout the state of Black Florida. I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I'm a certified school psychologist as well as a certified school principal. I'm author of the book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association, and I'm coming to Jacksonville the third day of Kwanzaa to drop a very, very powerful message on the state of education, but also the state of our people and what we need to start doing for ourselves under this next presidential administration.
That's awesome. Now, I can't overlook what's on the flyer, and for those of you who have not seen the flyer, it's The Gift and the Curse, Why a Trumped-Up White House could actually benefit black people. Now, that's a huge topic and very controversial. Can you give us a little bit what you mean by that?
Oh, certainly. Black people have a dependence on the United States government to solve their problems, and we love when presidents and other elected officials make promises to us that we know they're not going to keep. But we love it because psychologically, it allows us to lessen our obligation and responsibility to ourselves, and it allows us to not feel guilt for not being responsible for our own situation. So under Barack Obama, we had the illusion of inclusion for 8 years, and despite the fact that black people could clearly see with both eyes that America had not changed its attitude towards blacks, we saw with the killings and everything else that this was not a new America. It was not a post-racial America. It was the same old America. But because President Barack Obama made promises during his campaign, and because he continued to mislead black people with found-sounding bites about how things were going to get better in this country, under President Trump and the return of the Republican regime, there will be no promises to black people. There will be no type of policy that's designed to help us. So basically, the gift of the situation is that we cannot make excuses for why we are not doing anything for ourselves as we did with Barack Obama. It is clear and it is evident that if anything is going to happen for black people the next 8 years in this country, it's going to happen by black people.
I said something similar to that. After the election, I made a comment, and I got ripped for this. I said, since Trump is president, I said, I believe, this is my belief, that black people will come together and possibly do better. Now, I got ripped to shreds on social media for saying that. I got called all types of names and things like that. But is there a misleading when it comes to us having a black president? Do you think that as a people, as black people, we ourselves are color struck? We're like, okay, well, we have a black man in the White House. We're good. We don't care what he do. He's black, so we're good.
Well, that was definitely the mindset. It was very immature, and I believe that our great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren are going to still be suffering the aftershocks of the Obama presidency. The most sickening thing of the Obama administration was the fact that he did look out for all the other so-called minority groups in this country. He aggressively campaigned for homosexuals. In fact, his first 4 years was nothing but about homosexuality. He gave the homosexuals 3 federal laws. He gave white women Equal Pay Act. He passed historic legislation for immigrants. Obama took care of every non-white group in this country except black people. And he is not to be totally blamed for this, because unlike an Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, who ran for president before Obama, to his credit, and I don't give him much of it, but to his credit, he never promised to do anything for black people. It was us, with our religious immaturity and our indoctrination into believing that a Christ has to come and save us. We projected onto Obama this mystique of a savior, which he never volunteered to assume, and never proved that he would assume. And so for 8 years, we literally stood there and watched everything we fought for get snatched back because we felt we had to be loyal to a president who was not loyal to us.
Okay. But before I ask my next question, I want the audience know, hey, for you guys, you can call in at 215-383-3969. That number is 215-383-3965. If you would like to speak to Dr. Umar, hit 1. And you don't mind if I take a couple of calls, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to take a couple of calls. But before I do that, I had a question because I got a message in because I have a live message feed and live calls, and one of the callers said, "Is it possible that because he was a black president that we just didn't push him enough?" For instance, and they have a very valid point. The LGBT community really was in his face a lot. I mean, they were really pushing the issues. I mean, they made everything about gay rights. Even here in Jacksonville, it was about gay rights, gay rights, gay rights, gay rights. Do you think as black people we're just not doing enough when we get an elected official in office? Are we just kind of sitting back and just chilling? Or
yes.
Did Obama cripple us?
Yeah, he most certainly crippled us, but he crippled us with our permission. More so than saying Obama crippled us, I would say we crippled ourselves through Obama. Because I don't want to make him accountable for anything he did not promise. I have to be fair to him. And he never promised at all that even when he ran for president, although he spoke to black people, he spoke to black people very indirectly. So to his credit, again, he never, ever even insinuated that he had a black agenda. It was we all who projected onto him this romanticized vision of what a black president was going to do for black people. As I've often stated, our understanding of American politics is extremely immature and underdeveloped. We don't need black people in office. We don't. What we need is black power to control whomever the office holders are going to be. Chinese may never, ever run a candidate for elected office. They may never, ever be nominated by either major party to be a president of the United States or even a governor. They may never have the numbers to even make a serious run for any elected office, but it doesn't matter. Chinese do well regardless who the president or the governor or the mayor is, because Chinese understand that the first rule of politics is economic empowerment. Any group of people that is not economically empowered is going to be taken advantage of, whether the president comes from their community or not. And on the flip side, any community that is economically organized and empowered is going to be able to force whomever is in office to carry out their agenda, whether they like them or not. So our money dictates our politics. Our economic health as a community dictates our politics. It's not the other way around.
Okay, I'm going to go to the phone lines. I'm going to take our first call of the day. Caller number 1, you are on the line with Real Talk Robert and Dr. Umar. What's your question? You're there? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
I have one question. I just have a question. Dr. Umar was stating about how Obama. This question's for Dr. Umar. You were stating how Obama is in office, but he didn't have a black agenda. And I agree with you that it was the fact that people automatically assume because he's a black person, he was automatically going to have an agenda. Do you feel that as a black president that Obama, whether he had a black agenda or not, should have or been obligated to stand up for black Americans, killings and the police shootings? I noticed when the mayor of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlins Blake, when she spoke out and she labeled African Americans who was frustrated about the shooting of Freddie Gray, she labeled them as thugs and gangsters. Obama didn't take a stance on that. Do you think that he let us down by never taking a stand on any issue when it affected our community?
Well, remember President Obama in a press conference that wasn't held not too long after the mayor of Baltimore's press conference was held, he too reiterated her comments and also called the brothers and sisters in Baltimore thugs. And he also did take a stand.
Yeah,
he took a stand. He took a stand on side of the police. Barack Obama passed a hate crimes bill against police. For the benefit of police. So people who in any way, shape, or form look like that they're trying to challenge, to disrespect, or disobey the law would be able to suffer harsher consequences. So while black people were being murdered by police, the so-called black president signed a law that made it even more difficult for you to defend yourself in the face of police brutality, as opposed to signing a law that made it more difficult for police to exterminate you without any just cause. So Obama was very clear where he stood. He has always stood on the side of police, which is very, I would expect that, because the President of the United States is the chief of all military, and he is the chief law enforcement officer. And I felt that what he could have done, if nothing else, is he should have ordered a United States Department of Justice full federal investigation into the systematic killings of, it may not have resulted in anything, but it would have sent a symbol to black people that I at least am concerned with what's happening. He didn't even send out a symbolic gesture. And I'm not surprised. Look at his whole political career. Barack Obama has never taken a stand for black people. Never. Not in Chicago, not as a state senator of Illinois. So why would his conduct be any different as president? People do not change their behavior overnight. He has always served and placated a white agenda, and he always will. Biologically, he may be black, but psychologically, he's all white.
Wow. Well, hey, thank you very much for your call. We're going to move on to the next call. Obviously, this is a heated discussion, because as you guys are talking, the phone lines are lighting up. So I'm going to go to the next call, and then we're going to talk a little bit. We have about 15 minutes. I'm going to go to the next call. Go ahead, caller. You are on the air. Hello? Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, Dr. Umar?
Yeah, you're here with Real Talk Robert and Dr. Umar.
Hi, Real Talk Robert. I'm so sorry. I'm just really, really upset that the fact that I heard Dr. Umar say that Donald Trump is going to pretty much have it to where black people are, I guess you're saying Obama held our hands or crippled us, and that Donald Trump is going to come and just totally demolish everything that's good for black people. I have to disagree with you there, because during the whole campaign. Go ahead. Well, during the whole campaign, we're all aware that Donald Trump won the elect, and he never really gave an agenda for what he was going to do. So to jump to say that he's going to make it to where black people have to stand on their own, I feel like that's pretty much jumping the gun, if you will. And because he didn't really say what he was going to do, so you don't know. So my question to you is, are you saying that just because he's a Republican Party, because this country was founded off of the Republican Party, and those are the traditions, that's the traditional and the principles that we are.
Can I
Please
I have
do.
to interject. Excuse me, Dr. Umar. Excuse me. I mean, I personally believe, and this is my personal belief, and this is not the reflection of Dr. Umar's belief. I think that this election, I don't think that Trump is going to do more for black people. I think that it's a wake-up call for black people, and that indirectly should be enough to affect us, and we can take it from there. I mean, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But Dr. Umar, you can definitely answer that question.
Well, the question was a little confusing, because I never said that Donald Trump was going to do anything for black people. As a political science major, I've basically studied every presidential administration we've had since George Washington. And there's never been a president in this country who has ever done anything significantly to level out the political or economic playing field for black folks and white folks. Our power relationship vis-a-vis white folks has not changed a single iota since the 13th Amendment. I don't expect, Donald Trump really doesn't have to introduce anything new to oppress black people further. Much of that was already in place. Obama continued with it, and Donald Trump is going to continue with it. See, we have to realize that the danger of going forward in the United States of America, not only Trump, but every president thereafter, is we did not hold Obama accountable. That is significant because for 44 presidential administrations, black people always had something to say to the president about how they were being treated and what the president was not doing. For 43 consecutive presidents, Obama is the first president since George Washington who was able to enjoy an atmosphere where black people never even criticized his neglect of their issues and needs. And because we did not hold him accountable, you set a precedent where it's almost impossible to hold any other president accountable after him. We dug the ditch for ourselves more than any president could do.
Right.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, one more.
Can I ask one more question? Do you feel it would have been different? And if so, what would have been different had Hillary Clinton won?
The difference with Hillary versus Donald Trump is, again, the illusion of inclusion would have continued. And for me, black people believing that America is going to do anything for them is always a recipe for disaster because it basically puts us in a straitjacket psychologically, but we don't feel we have to work harder because they're promising things. To answer your question, nothing would have been different. Nothing at all. We got to realize something. Donald Trump did not have a black agenda, neither did Hillary. President Obama did not have a black agenda, neither did John McCain. Okay, George Bush didn't have a black agenda, neither did Al Gore. No president has ever articulated anything specifically that they were going to do for black folks. So even the belief that things are going to get better because you elect one person versus the other is based on political ignorance.
Right. Thank you for your call very much. Yeah, but that was a very interesting call, and a lot of people I think are starting to realize, in the sense of, and what you said was very, very powerful, and I had not even thought of that. This has probably been the first administration where blacks have not been outraged at the president.
And had every reason to. See, the significance is not only that we were not outraged. That's part of the significance. But the other thing that was historical about the past 8 years, we had every reason to be outraged. Obama was watching police murder black people like flies and roaches and said nothing or did anything legally against it. Look at how he aggressively went on the defense for homosexuals. Compare how he went on the defense for homosexuals with how he refused to go on the defense for black folks. Not only that, look at every indicator of success. Graduation is down for our students. Okay, wealth ownership is down. Unemployment is up. Mass incarceration is up. Our numbers under Barack Obama are worse than they were under George Bush, and yet we sat there with our hands folded and said, leave my president alone while his police kills our children.
Wow. And guys, remember, if you're on the line and you would like to speak to Dr. Umar, we're going to take a few more calls. Make sure you press 1. The number to call in is 215-383-3969. Again, that is 215-383-3969. I'm going to go to our next call. I know you guys want to get in and speak to him. But guess what? If you don't make it to speak to Dr. Umar tonight, you can always see him Wednesday, December 28, 2016, at the Regency Square Mall Event Planning Center. And that address is Suite 205, 9501 Arlington Expressway. You guys know where that is.
And please also let them know, good brother. Mm-hmm. Also let them know the program will be from 6 to 9. The doors will open up at 4. They can get their tickets at princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com. Again, princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com, where they can text me and I will send them the link at area code 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858. Every black parent in Jacksonville needs to be there to get this information about how they can do it better, the different strategies that are going to be thrown at them through the miseducation machine.
All right. We're going to go to our next call. Okay, caller, you're on the air. How are you? Hello? Caller, you're there.
Hello, how are you doing today?
How are you?
Yes, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Dr. Umar?
Good evening, my brother.
Yes, a pleasure to speak with you. Yes, I got a question. I actually work in the Duval County school system, and sometimes it's the kids. I know it's not all their fault. Sometimes it's the parents. Sometimes they don't have a desire to learn, seem like. So sometimes, I will try to empower them with business and financial concepts. So what do you think would be a good ignition point, to get them to actually mind sparked in that direction?
Okay, you're speaking of the children or
Yes.
the parents? Children.
Well, both actually, because it starts from the top. So what do you think is the best route to reach
Well,
the
with
kids?
the classroom, I think one thing that children always love to talk about is money. And unfortunately, there's almost no courses on economics in public school. Economics is almost forbidden from being taught in public school, and that's largely been influenced by the corporate sector because they don't want the people to really understand how money works so that they will always consent to simply being laborers within the industry as opposed to being giants of that industry. But I think once you bring money to the table, and I tell math teachers and science teachers this, if you want to get their attention, start discussing money. With money, you have to deal with decimals. With money, you have to deal with commas. But the key to keeping a child's attention is to make the instruction relevant. And as a former school principal myself, I used to always remind my teachers of how you have to make sure the lessons are relevant. You have to tie it to their everyday life. A lesson that is tied to a child's everyday life is going to quadruple the amount of intellectual force they bring to that lesson, as opposed to a lesson that is not relevant at all. It's going to be boring. They're not going to pay attention. They're going to disengage from the learning environment and subsequently be diagnosed with ADHD and have drugs shoved down their throat. So economics, bringing that money to the table, have them write business planning. I think a powerful lesson or project rather would be business planning. Teach them the process of business planning, have them create business plans, have them present their business plan to their peers, have the peers critique it, and maybe even have them work in groups where they have to come up with the business plan as a group, because black people need to learn how to work together, and the best way to do that is to start making our children work together in the classroom.
Yeah,
Amen to that.
Thank you so much. Yes, because I have an academy I'm setting up to teach the kids financial literacy and business concepts, but to bring that angle up, I actually like that, so I'm going to incorporate that into the academy as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope to see you on the 28th.
Thank you for your call.
Yes, I will.
Let's make sure we see you on the 28th. And it's I just I don't want to go off topic too much, but I saw I forgot what show you was on. You were talking about the ADHD, and that is something that is plaguing young black boys all over America. I've never seen it this high in my life. Everybody's ADHD now. I'm not sure if it's in the food or what. But could you briefly just hit that a little bit, and then I know we're going to have to talk about all this on Wednesday, but give them a little bit of what you were saying, because it was so deep and it was so on topic.
ADHD came to us in 1980. The American Psychiatric Association dropped the ADHD bomb the same year that the CIA dropped crack cocaine off in the black community. Long story short, the United States government started doping up children at the same time they started doping up adults. The American Medical Association says that Ritalin acts upon the brain the same way that crack cocaine does. Chemically speaking, Ritalin is only one molecule away from crack cocaine. It has the same side effects as crack cocaine, and the side effects to the brain are just as debilitating as crack cocaine. And ADHD as a diagnosis, as a disability, cannot be proven to exist. It is an opinion. It cannot be verified by scientific fact. But basically, our kids are not only being over-medicated and miseducated, it's happening by way of a diagnosis that has no scientific basis in fact.
Wow. Okay, well, we'll talk more about that, I guess, on Wednesday, but we're going to go to probably it's our last caller tonight. And go ahead, caller. You are on the air with Dr. Umar, Real Talk Robert Simmons. How are you?
Hi, how are you tonight, Brother Umar?
Good evening, Queen.
Was calling in. Robert is a very good friend of mine. How you doing tonight, Robert? Was calling in because I happened to catch the program, and I've been promoting it all week because, I search for culture and intellectual stimulation and on the issues that I'm concerned about. And
We welcome you to Jacksonville. I wanted to say that, we need to get back to looking out for our own, because it takes a village to raise a child. We can't send our children to public school and expect them to educate our children the way that they need to be educated. That has to come from our community. I am part of Generation X, I come from a generation of people that, we looked out for each other's children. And we've gotten into this new age parenting where, people are reluctant to counsel other people's children. But, we are educators. We are nurses. We are doctors. We are scientists. We give our gifts away to our jobs, and we don't have much left for our own children. But I say that to say that it's up to us to ensure the survival of us. And it's a harsh reality, but that's exactly what it is. It's a reality. We can depend on the president to push an agenda to benefit us, because they never have and they never will. We can't depend on anybody else to put our needs before theirs. We built this country, and we are on the bottom. And it's up to us to bring ourselves up, to bring ourselves through. And, I asked the question in answer of, what will America look like post-Trump? Trump is a businessman. He's not a politician. And he's going to conduct business as usual. And in the grand scheme of things, us as African Americans, we need to step it up. We need to do what we know we need to do and stop expecting them to take care of us, because they're not going to.
Absolutely.
Sis,
I really, really appreciate it, but we're pressed for time. I know you said, who is this?
Sophia.
You know me, but
Loren.
Oh, hey, Sophie. How are you? How are you? I love you, sister. Well, I'm gonna try to squeeze in one more call, because we got about 1 minute left on the show. But thank you for your call. Make sure that you're at the Regency Square Mall on December 28th.
I look
and for the guys
to
that, for those who didn't get a chance to listen to the show tonight, we will actually, I believe on the 27th, we're going to do a actual show where you can actually see it visually. But I'm going to squeeze one last call in, and then guys, come out December 28th, 2016, Regency Square Mall, Arlington Expressway. But this one last call, calling you on live, on the air. How are you? You're live with Dr. Umar and Robert Simmons. Hello? You're live.
Yes, hi, Dr. Umar. My name is Sasha. I'm actually calling from Phoenix, Arizona, and I want to say it's a pleasure to speak with you tonight. I've been following you for a while, and I just have a few questions here. Some of the things I say that our community needs help with is finances and family structure. Our familiar structures are completely broken. And it just seems really heartbreaking when I talk to young people today and I look at families that are older and upcoming families, and it just seems that we do not value the traditional family structure, like the mother and the father in the home raising children. It seems like there's just degradation there, and we just really don't value it. People don't want to get married as much, or maybe they're doing it at a later age. What do you think we can do to kind of instill these values in young people and to help people understand that when we make our families strong, we will also then make our community strong? And this is aside from economics. Like, I understand that those things are important as well, but what can we do about fixing this familial breakdown that has happened in the African American community?
Right. Well, firstly, we cannot separate family from the economic structure. Family is a byproduct of society, and society has as its foundation economic processes. So when you look at the breakdown of the black family, you will see that it has concomitantly occurred with the breakdown of black economic power. When people talk about the fact that up until 1960, 1965, about 65% of all black households were two-parented. The husband and the wife were there, and they were married, the mother and the father. Well, also at that time, the father also had a job. And then when you come to the 1970s with the deindustrialization of the inner city and the deindustrialization of the inner city high schools with the arrival of crack cocaine, that's when you begin to see the demise of the black family as a legitimate structure. So you cannot separate the economics from the family piece, because marriage at a certain level is a business contract. When you look at why people get divorced, finances is at the top of the list for why people get divorced. One of the reasons why our marriage rate is so low in our community is not just because of brothers who are not ready to commit, but it's also because of sisters who have a very high economic expectation of what their partners bring to the table. So if we want to see more strong families, we have to make more strong black men. That's the bottom line. Black men are the only men in America who are out-earned and out-educated by their partners. That has a big role to play in this. Along with that is you're now living amongst a generation of African Americans, most of whom never saw their parents live in the same house. Now, my parents were married. Okay, I was born in the 70s. My parents were married. I saw that. They did subsequently get divorced, but I did live in a married household. 2/3 of all black young folks today never saw their parents under the same roof. So they don't even have an idea of the traditional black family. And then we have to look at how popular media, rap, R&B, the movies that we make, all advertise and they glamorize infidelity. Look at the rap music that we love to listen to. It does not glamorize marriage. It glamorizes cheating and being a ladies' man. So we have to look at how we are creating a culture within our own community that says it's okay not to be committed to someone of the opposite sex.
And I understand that, but black people aren't the only people receiving this information, like in this music. Like, other people are listening to this as well, and they still don't seem to be as impacted as we are. And I
no one listens
to, like,
to rap the way we
stronger.
do. No
How do we make our men stronger? What do we do with that?
Well, remember, we are an economically devastated community. You will never get strong families in an economically weak community, period. Because when you add the stresses of economics to a family, if that relationship wasn't started on a sound foundation in the first place, it can destroy it. Even if it was, it can destroy it. When a man cannot provide for his family, he's not looking to get married. And then you add to that a woman who is looking for a man to come to the table with equal education or equal economics. A lot of our brothers are not in that situation because of the war against black men, selective targeting of black men for the penal institutions. Once you come out of that jail, you're not in a position to match your sister for her income and her education. So we got to look at, yes, the situation of brothers. We have to get it together, but we also got to look at sisters and how this elaborate, materialistic marriage is what a lot of them have conceptualized. You know, it's not about love. It's about you being able to provide me with a certain quality of lifestyle, which in my opinion isn't even necessary. But again, you cannot solve the black family reality by taking it out of its context. You have to put it in its appropriate economic, political, social, and cultural context, which is to say you have to look at the role of self-hatred. Self-hatred plays a big role in why black men and women do not work it out beyond the economics. That they don't have to respect black women, and black women have been conditioned that they don't have to respect black men.
Okay, guys, this was so good. We can go on and on. I just don't want the system to kick us out. We are past time. Look, Dr. Umar, thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor. It's going to be a pleasure and an honor to see you on December 28th. Hey, we have about 70 calls in queue. People want to speak to you. We're not going to be able to take all the calls. In fact, that was the last call for the night. But remember, Wednesday, December 28th, 2016, at the Regency Square Mall. That address is 9501 Arlington Expressway, 32225 Suite 205. And Dr. Umar, before we close out, give them the information that you gave us earlier, how they can get in contact.
Yes, tickets, princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com, princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com. You can also go to my website, drumarjohnson.com, and access Eventbrite from there. Or you can text me for the flyer, 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. Looking forward to it. My first visit to Jacksonville in 5 years.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar. I look forward to our next interview when you come down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night and good afternoon, wherever you may be in this world. I am your host, Robert Simmons, and you are now tuned into the Real Talk with Robert Simmons show. Part 2 of the Real Talk show with Dr. Umar. If you guys missed last week, you missed something very, very, very special. Dr. Umar graced us with his presence, and we had an awesome show. However, tonight, he is available, but we're having a little technical difficulties connecting with him. Now, what I'm about to do is try to connect with him live while we're on the air. We typically do this before, but we had some glitches. Once again, sorry to the 70 people who could not get in to ask the questions that they needed to ask on last week. But Dr. Umar will be in tonight, and we are going to try to get him in. Just bear with us. We are actually going to call him live on the air. I don't like to call guests live on the air for the simple fact that a lot of times it's like, you know, it's just funny for me. But however, we're going to give him a call. Give us 1 second. Remember, the number to call in tonight for you guys is area code 215-383-3969. Again, that is 215-383-3969. And remember, if you have a question for Dr. Umar, whatever it may be, call in. Press the number 1. Once you press the number 1, it will put you in queue to speak to Dr. Umar, and we'll take it from there. But at this moment and at this time, I'm going to try to call Dr. Umar. Give me 1 second. Here we go. I feel like I'm on one of those radio stations where it's just, you know. Hello? Dr.
Yes,
Umar?
sir, Doctor. Yes, sir.
Okay. We didn't get to do the show how we typically do in the beginning. However, everybody's already on. We had a little glitch in the system, but you're on the air live right now as we speak. Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
We had such a wonderful show last week that it was almost a mutiny here. People was like, Robert, I didn't know that you were doing the show, you know. And it's like, we want to talk to him. I said, and Valerie called me and said, we need to do another show, and I am excited about tonight. My first question to you off top, before we even get into anything, is, you can address this later. President Obama, I don't know whether he heard our show or not, but he was the first president within 1 day to pardon so many prisoners, and from what I read, war minorities. Now, before you answer that, go ahead and introduce to the audience exactly who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yes, sir. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I do clinical work in terms of evaluating, diagnosing, and treating mental disorders. My expertise is in school psychology. I'm a certified school psychologist, which I've been for almost 20 years now. I evaluate children for special education eligibility, learning disabilities, autism, emotional disturbance, speech and language, deaf, blindness, developmental delays, brain injuries, orthopedic impairments, and of course the also popular ADHD. And so the bulk of my political work is in educating and empowering black parents so that they can be more effective at advocating for their children. Too many black parents are allowing their kids to be put in special ed. Too many black parents are allowing their sons to be diagnosed with so-called ADHD, and too many of them are allowing the very dangerous psychiatric medicines to be prescribed to their children. I'm author of the book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD War Against Black Boys, and I'm currently raising money and searching for a school property, because on August the 21st, 2018, that will be a historic day, because it will be the first day of school for the boys at the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for Pan-African Excellence.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar. And we're gonna address both of those, both the schools and what you're raising money for, in a second. But just for me, I know I'm going to go to the phone lines and ask questions. But before I do that, I have my own question. How do you feel about President Obama pardoning so many people, more than any other president ever, in 1 day? I'm not saying he heard our show, but let's say he did. Do you think this is an attempt to, and from what I understand, they were majority minority, Do you think this is a response to the black community or not?
Well, President Barack Obama is very aware that the black community is aware that he really hasn't done anything for them. And in compared to what he's done for homosexuals, immigrants, and white women, you could basically say he's done nothing for black people. Not a single piece of legislation was passed during Obama's 8 year in office that specifically targeted African Americans, although 3 pieces of federal legislation was passed that was specific to homosexuals. We had the Equal Pay Act for women. We had landmark immigration law for the Mexican and Latinos, but there was no legislation that was specific to African Americans. As far as the pardoning goes, the question becomes, are we content with Band-Aids or do we want solutions? I don't care if President Obama let 1 million black men out of jail, and he obviously did not. That ultimately means nothing because the same men you let out of jail will be right back in jail in the following year because black men have a 97% prison recidivism rate because there's no meaningful and effective program that seeks to empower our brothers with jobs once they get out. So most of them have to commit crime and they end right back up there. If he wanted to do something significant, if he was trying to be sincere, then you should have signed an executive order that changed some of the law. You should have signed an executive order that created programs to help brothers after they get out of jail. But to simply pardon people but do nothing about the injustice of the criminal justice system itself, to not bring about a systemic change, in my opinion, that was nothing more than a Band-Aid that he put in place so that he could try to save his reputation amongst black folks. But that does nothing for me. I'm not content with that. It's too little, too late. You should have done something systemic. If you teach a man to fish, he fish for his life. But if you give him a fish, he only eat for a day. Letting a few black men out of prison while you do nothing to change the prison laws, ultimately to me, is not progress.
And you know, and that's a great explanation. The reason why I asked the question, I had someone who pulled me to the side, and I'm going to tell you the exact words. They said, "Robert, I heard you was interviewing the Dr. Umar guy," and I said, "Oh, what does that mean?" Obviously, it's a good thing because you know who he is. And it was like, well, how do you feel about the Obama thing? And they said, well, I didn't call into the show last week. However, I listened, and I wasn't happy about the Obama side of it. And I don't want to waste our entire 30 minutes talking about the Obama side. But Dr. Umar, there are a lot of black people who really want a deeper explanation. Now, you said the illusion of inclusion. I feel you. As a host, I get that. I personally feel that. I personally feel like, and I'm going to step on a limb and say I don't think that Obama did as much as he could have done for the black community. I really don't. But most of us are misinformed. Now, for those misinformed people who just can't get past you saying, well, Dr. Umar, he was a black president. Yeah, he didn't do this, but could he really? What do you have to say to those people that say he was a black man, let's just support him because he's black, and black is all we have?
Well, the good Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who's a hero of mine, and compared to which Obama's scale is significantly smaller in comparison in terms of what he's done for black people. Dr. King said, injustice is injustice no matter what color commits it. Injustice is injustice no matter what color commits it. Let's look at this another way. If Obama was a white president when Trayvon Martin got murdered, if he was a white president, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, if he was a white president with the type of schools that we have, if he was a white president with the type of unemployment and mass incarceration numbers, mind you, our numbers under Obama are worse than they were under both of the past 2 Republican presidents, George Bush and his father. If he were white, do you not think the reaction from black people would have been significantly different? We would have went crazy if a white president would have told us that he is not going to order a Justice Department investigation into the systematic killings of defenseless, unarmed black people by white police. We would have lost our minds if the president did not show up to at least one of the murders of black children that took place in this country. We would have lost our mind. If Obama was white, black folks would have went crazy, but because he was black, we allowed him and racism to do whatever it wanted to do for black folks. We sat still for 8 years, allowed a president to completely ignore us. And now that the president is white again, you really think that they have to be accountable to black people after you just let someone who looks just like you ignore you for 8 years and take care of every other minority group in America? What we did, we set a precedent that allows any president after Obama to ignore black folks. Why? Because if one president don't have to do anything for you, then no president has to do anything for you.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is not a phone line question. This is my question. What must we do? And side note, I want to thank everybody from listening all the way from Canada. I see you guys here on the line. I see Atlanta once again. Atlanta is a huge, strong supporter wherever you go. Thank you, Jacksonville, for being online. And remember to call in. The number is 215-383-3969. Again, that is 215-383-3969. And if you would like to speak to Dr. Umar, press number 1. And if we have time, we will definitely make sure that is possible. But Dr. Umar, this is my question. What must we do about the miseducated, if anything, that we can do? And after you answer, I'm going to take a call. But what can we do with the miseducated in America as far as you see it?
Well, first of all, in terms of the miseducation of our children, we have to build schools for ourselves. In terms of the miseducation of the adults, you can only educate those who are willing to learn. Many black people are hypnotized by the illusion of inclusion. Many black people are addicted to integration. Most adult Africans are totally useless as it relates to what we need to do to change our paradigm. Most of us are content with being the underdogs. We are with having a Mercedes-Benz and a nice car with no political and economic power. We are content knowing we can walk into any store, buy anything we want, but come outside that store, be murdered by the police, and that police will not even be held accountable for that murder. We are comfortable. Slavery has made black people very comfortable, having no authority or power over the direction of our lives. We're content. No other people could be as content as we are, living in a reality where you exert no control over the decisions that are made about you. So first we have to find the ones that care. And the ones that do care, they can be politically educated. Here's the thing that your listeners need to understand as far as my message is concerned. And shout out to Atlanta. I'll be speaking there on New Year's Day for Kwanzaa. And shout out to Jacksonville, Florida. I'll be speaking there on Wednesday, December the 28th for Kwanzaa. But what I want them to understand is that solving our problems is not a difficult problem. That's not the obstacle. Solving black problems is very simple and straightforward. Our difficulty is in gathering and mustering enough African Americans who are willing to engage in a sustained, protracted movement for liberation. If you look, my brother, historically, most of our serious movements, they were sustained and they were protracted. The abolitionist movement to end slavery, the Marcus Garvey movement for Pan-African independence and self-reliance. You look at Dr. King's movement for the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Act. It took years to bring these things into fruition. It took decades to bring these things into fruition. And what do you see now? One-day revolutions all across the black community. We're going to occupy this for one day. We're going to go march with Minister Farrakhan, a Million Man March, for one day. A lot of blacks are getting ready to march with Reverend Al Sharpton January 14th on the White House for one day. What do you know has ever changed in one day?
Wow. Very, very valid points. I'm going to go to the first phone call we're going to take. The phone calls are lining up. Go ahead, caller. What's your name and where are you from? You are live with Dr. Umar and Real Talk Robert Simmons. How are you?
Hello?
Yeah, you're
Hello?
live with Dr. Umar and Robert Simmons. Can you hear us?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. the problem, I think, with a black community, and that we failed, our biggest, I think you made a valid point about inclusion. Our biggest problem with our educational system when we desegregated ourselves. When we desegregated ourselves, we depended on typically European education to mold the young black mind. And when we wanted inclusion into the schools, what happened was we had our black children who have potential being basically conditioned and being taught by Caucasians that really didn't care about their well-being. We have to come here and educate our youth, but we have to find a way to have elementary schools that are specifically designed for our kind so that we can educate them at a younger age. The problem is that we try to fix them when it's already too late. We got to get them when they're young. And so we de-brainwash them from the beginning so that they know that there's power behind their vote. When they're 18, 20s, 19, even in middle school, they're already socialized by the media and by the educational system that has been created to really marginalize them and make them think that they're second-class citizens. That's really what we need to really focus on, is that. I mean, we look at this election right now. We sat here and talked about that Black Lives Matter, but we didn't come out here and vote. How can we sit here and say that we're going to affect political policy in this country and not be able to vote? They fear the vote, bro. And that's really
let me ask you something, brother. I mean, you sound very, very passionate, and I do feel where you're from. Where you're coming from? Where are you from, and what's your actual question for Dr. Umar? I dig what you're saying. I feel as though we need, like, that is the root of the problem. Is being able to catch, because the question is, how do we educate the young black youth and be able to get to them and have African education, African influences in the educational system? See, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, but I went to the University of Maryland, College Park to pursue my degree. What I noticed that in Brooklyn, where there was a higher percentage of African Americans, February was allotted. We didn't just learn about Martin Luther King Jr. We learned about Ferguson. We learned about Charles Woodson Jew. We learned about the first African American that completed the first heart surgery. We learned about that. But once you leave certain areas in this country, they don't understand their history. So how can you come out here and fight for something and respect something if you don't even have a history to fight for? This is what we have to do. We have to come together. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, bro. I don't mean to cut you off, but, you know, we do have other callers on the line, and I'm going to give Dr. Umar a chance to... So I guess, basically, I'm going to assume what he was asking is the black educated, once we, like myself, we go to school, we go to college, is it that we're being diverted on what really matters, or is there more? And I'll go ahead and let you answer that, Dr. Umar.
One of the purposes of education is to teach intangibles. Intangibles like pride, intangibles like commitment, values, purpose. Education is supposed to emotionally tie you to that which you need to be doing. As long as the education of black children is being handed out by middle-class racist white women, then the black children will come out racist amongst their own people. To be taught by a racist is to become a racist yourself. There's no way we're going to change our paradigm by continuing to allow our children to be educated by middle-class racist white women who constitute 93% of America's teaching force. So what makes it so ridiculous from a solutions-based perspective is we spend $600 million every year on McDonald's, $2 billion on athletic footwear, $4 billion on alcohol, $9 billion on weave and perm. With that type of money, all we have to do, my brother, is sacrifice our Christmas money. Right now, what are black people doing all across America? We are hemorrhaging, literally hemorrhaging billions of dollars on useless gifts, nonsense, and materialistic junk, most of which our children won't even want to be bothered with 2 weeks after Christmas. If we would just sacrifice our Christmas money, we could change the entire trajectory of the black community in 48 hours.
Wow. Well, Dr. Umar, I'm going to go to our next call before I have a mutiny on my hand. And big shout out to Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you guys. I was there this weekend. Good to see you guys on board. Good to see you guys in Phoenix, Arizona. Love you. We'll be out there really soon. But right now, we're going to go ahead and take our next call. Let me go ahead and do this. Go ahead, caller. What's your name and where you from? You are on the air with Real Talk Robert and Dr. Umar. Go ahead. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
You're here. Go ahead and speak.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay. I want to ask a question directed to Dr. Johnson. And first of all, Dr. Johnson, let me say how proud I am with respect to your eloquence, your sense of history, your passion and your articulation and the priorities of the black. But I may, with due respect, I think you are too harsh with President Obama and an oversimplification about movement in a day. A woman chooses not to go to the back of a bus, but to stay up front. That was just a moment, and it was a moment in time. And so all our deeds don't have to be massive. Sometimes it's just a small step in the right direction that creates the rolling snow that just rolls and rolls and gets bigger. My question to you, sir, and thanks for your tolerance to listen to my statement. My question to you, as we are in what is considered an impoverished environment, politically, economically, in so many aspects, my question to you is, which of these elements that you think is the most important, and please to include our spirituality?
That's a very good question. I would say because our culture and because humanity itself, regardless of race and culture, is so complex, I don't think you can actually prioritize the different aspects of the black reality that should be attacked first. I think they all have to be attacked with the same degree of commitment and equanimity. I believe that the economics is tied to the education, which is tied to black family, which is tied to black church, which is tied to black community cohesion and development, which is tied to how we raise our children, which is tied to post-traumatic slavery disease, which is tied to our mental health and emotional well-being, which is tied to our spending habits. It's really a spider's web. And just like with a spider's web, you can't really pay attention to one part of it. Anything you do in one part automatically reverberates across the entire web. So because our problems are multimodal, the solutions themselves must also be complex and multimodal. We have to attack all those things. But if we had to narrow it down to three, for the sake of time, resources, and experience, the three top issues that must be dealt with is political organization, economic empowerment, and educational liberation. The money, the political power, and the education of the next generation. That means we need to start building black banks. That means we need to start building independent black schools. And that means we need to start building independent black political unions, not parties. We don't need parties. What we need is independent black power that can control the person in office regardless as to whether they're a Democrat or a Republican.
Very, very well stated, sir. And I endorse heartily, and I endorse what you're saying. But it has been my thinking, my reality, That a puddle wants to be a stream, the stream wants to be the river wants to be the sea wants to be the ocean wants to be the Pacific. And so there are steps in a particular direction where you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And so to be so multifaceted that you're going after the economy, you're going after the social, you're going after this, you're going after that. And yet I don't hear a passion for the spirituality, which
I would
to me
say,
is the most.
I agree with you. Spirituality is critical. Me personally, I was raised Muslim and Christian, and I still respect both of those religions. But in my adult years, I have began to study African and practice African spirituality more so than any world religion. My specific spiritual system is that of Ifa, which comes from the Yoruba of Nigeria. That's the system that I'm most comfortable with. That's the one that I use. The problem with spirituality, not with spirituality per se, but in bringing spirituality to black folks, I don't know if that's the place to start, because our people have been so brainwashed and conditioned by the major religions that they are taught to shun anyone who speaks against it or who brings an alternative system of soul development. With that being said, I think spirituality might be the cherry on top from a strategic standpoint. You and I know how important it is, but dealing with the mindset of our people, we got to meet them where they are. And coming at them with the spiritual piece, I think we're going to lose them, because they are trained very well to shun anyone who has not accepted Jesus. They are trained very well to shun anyone who has not taken their shahada and accepted Muhammad ibn Abdullah as the last prophet. So I agree with you. Spirituality is key, but I don't think we introduced that in the beginning. In the beginning, we have to deal with the basic needs of the community. That is food, clothing, shelter, security, education, and then we move to the spirituality.
Well, thank you very much for your call. Dr. Umar, from myself to you, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show. I believe that the event on December 28th will be very, very successful due to the I don't want to say backlash, due to how many people that are engaged. So my last question to you before we go out, because we have to leave out, so we have a minute and 50 seconds. I've had so many people contact me, and they say, well, you know, I love Dr. Umar so much. Will he have a revelation when he comes here? No, I don't think you're Muhammad or Jesus or anything like that. But I do believe that the people are hungry, as Les Brown likes to say. The people are hungry, and I do believe that there is an awakening in America for black people to do what is needed to be done in our culture. Do you have a response to that? If you can make it quick,
I agree with
awesome,
you.
And then we'll close out.
Yes, sir. I absolutely agree with you. And we need everyone who's listening to the show tonight to be a part of that awakening. And I take responsibility for being part of the leadership of that awakening. And I hope to see everyone out in Jacksonville, Florida, next Wednesday, the 28th at 6 o'clock. And if anyone needs to reach me, they can do so at my website, drumarjohnson.com, where they can call me at 215-989-9858, 989-9858, and they can get tickets for the event at princeofpanafricanism.eventbrite.com.
And Dr. Umar, we are doing. We're going to push it, and thank you guys for tuning in to the basically aftermath of last week. Those of you who were listening online, the show did cut off on the last caller, and those of you who were online, you heard the entire episode. If you want to hear the entire thing, make sure you go to www.realtalkrobert.com, and you can hear the entire episode. Thank you, Dr. Umar. We're out of here.